Now, once as a HR generalist, we have identified the organization structure, we understood about different organizational aspects, the present situation, and also understood about the environment and the industry. Obviously, the next step is contributing towards the positive organizational development activity, or commonly referred as OD activity. OD activity is simply, in if we can define it, whatever the development can be applied to the organization which can be useful for the business, for the employee satisfaction, for the overall growth of the organization, can be considered as an organizational development activity. So therefore, at first you must understand how the organization is performing, operating, and planning to operate, and then based on that, different types of new initiatives, new activities can be included, which can be considered as a organizational growth. Say for example, the organization is managing the entire HR operation in a manual way, and the overall requirement of the manpower is therefore extremely high. So maybe you are actually having a HR ratio of 50:1 or 100:1, where HR is responsible for manually managing different types of employee management issues related to issuing the appointment letter, confirmation, managing the performance management, issuing the letters, payroll preparation. Everything is manual, and therefore a high number of manpower is required. Not only that, the probability of making mistakes and different types of glitches are always there. On the other hand, if you digitally transform the entire HR operation, obviously the requirement of the manpower would be always less, the dependency on the manpower would be always less, and most importantly, the possibility of having mistakes or glitches in the process will be much less in number. Yes, you can always argue that it will decrease the manpower requirement, but on the other hand, over a period of time, it is always observed that the manpower will decrease. So, whenever the manpower is decreasing, take the opportunity to implement something like a digital transformation in the operation. So, therefore, the things can be improved, things can be managed in a much better way without any mistakes, without any glitches. So therefore, any kind of digital transformation can be one example of organizational development. Also, incorporating different types of advanced processes in the organization. Say for example, for project management, if you are implementing something like Safe Agile or something like ITIL for the process management, if you are implementing, obviously it is can be considered as an organizational development, because it's not only enable you to manage the projects or the process in a much structured way, but also in a standardized way, which would be helpful for the organization to manage everything in a much seamless way, and also to represent it in front of the client to gain their confidence. And it doesn't only ends there, the employees also will get the benefit of getting exposure to a new system, learning it, making it more easier for them, and become a much better professional. Similarly, if you are implementing different types of international standardization, like ISO 9001 for quality management, ISO 27001 for information security management, which is nowadays maybe one of the most important aspect for most of the IT companies or companies who are dealing with a lot of informations, and maybe CMMI, which is actually talking about the process maturity. So whenever you are implementing such different new processes, it would be helpful for the organization to manage different process, different activities in a structured, internationally recognized, standardized way. Number one. Number two, employees will get exposure to different standard practices. Therefore, they can learn, they can grow themselves. Number three, most important, as an organization, you gain the confidence of your clients, of your potential customers. So people will have faith on you that you have already implemented ISO 27001 kind of information security measures in the organization. So data sharing with the organization is not a challenge. You can keep faith on the organization without any doubts. So therefore the business growth, client acquisition will be much easier. And also everybody whenever wants to join an organization, they always look forward for different types of standardization of the organization. So attracting the talents and also creating a brand obviously much easier whenever you are implementing different types of international standards or different type of important process initiatives. So organization development is actually not only important for the organization to manage the practices processes in a much better way, but also it is helpful for the business development, brand building of the organization. It's also helpful for the employment generation, attracting the talents, employee satisfaction, and also to make them happy that they are a part of the organization which is very standard in its practice, which has a very structured approach, and therefore their overall understanding and learning and way of working is much easier and structured. So organization development is one of the most important responsibility of HR journalist or any HR professional. Obviously, they cannot do it alone. It has to be done along with the delivery team, along with other support teams like finance, marketing, etc. And also, it should have the consent or the go ahead of the management team, because without the consent of the management team, no organizational development activity is possible. You need an approval. You need a kind of yes of the management team whenever you are trying to implement something. But yes, if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to acknowledge as a HR journalist and who is completely aligned with the organization, taking a lead in different types of organizational development activity is one of the most important aspect of it. You can always gain the confidence or can prove yourself by managing different types of HR operations, different types of day-to-day activities, and different types of support activities. But on the other hand, if you really want to grow yourself as a professional, if you really want to showcase yourself as one of the most important critical resources, though you are working in somewhat a support department like HR, you must contribute towards the organizational development. Every organization will acknowledge, will accept a person or individual as exceptionally good whenever they are performing something related to organizational development, organizational activity, and different types of business related activities. So aligning yourself with the business is very important. Organizational development is actually the outcome of it. Obviously, as a HR, you have a lot of opportunities to contribute towards different types of organizational development, be it in recruitment. You can always include different processes, utilization, always analysis, and different types of resource utilization improvement is possible. Engagement, making a much better engagement and showcase the organization as a much better brand. Training and development, making the employee happy, creating the capability of the organization. And overall digital transformation, implementation of new processes, aligning the organization with different new practices is always can be possible by the HR generalist individual. Therefore, try to contribute towards more organizational development along with your day-to-day activity, because that is the aspect which is going to make the difference, which is going to showcase yourself as one of the most critical important individual of the organization. And as a HR journalist, you would be considered as one of the most important function of the organization as well. Thank you.